So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for turning up. I can tell by the reaction to Mary's Go Wrexham that you're probably a bit like our profile, actually, in the States. You're probably more Wrexham, welcome to Wrexham fans than football fans. But just to set expectations, so I'm going to do a very brief introduction to the documentary, a little bit of a few slides and a little bit of research into the club, because we are sort of atypical as a football club, thanks to the documentary. And then go through, with the help of a couple of friends, a couple of videos to show how we've kind of, welded together the club, the history, the documentary, sponsor partners, finish off with a case study, and then I'd like to get to some questions. Hopefully you've got a few at the end. So with that, I will crack on. Wrexham were in the fifth tier of English football. And the short story is that Rob McElhenney was shooting episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. One of the people on the show wrote with him, Humphrey Carr. They had some downtime. I was constantly watching on his iPad, and he was actually watching another documentary, Sunderland Till I Die. Story goes, Rob asked him why he was watching it, and they were, for want of a better word, Rob can say these things, I can't, they were ribbing each other. And then he started to get interested and said, well, I don't get it, what's the interest? He said, well, they've been relegated, they've been in the fifth tier, it's non-professional and so on. And then Rob says, well, then if they can get relegated, then they can go up, they can get promoted, right? Which is anathema to US sports, where you have a closed league and a franchise. Rob says, we should do that, we should look at getting a club and we should make a documentary about them. Eventually, it led them to Wrexham. So again, a little bit of backstory that it's not completely whimsical. What's happened since has kind of, again, and we have an episode, if you watched it on the documentary, about Disney FC. It is like a Disney fairy tale. The club, that first year, the club didn't go up. The next year it went up, National League to League Two, League Two to League One. I joined them last year in League One. We went up last season to the Championship. And this season, August 4th, I believe it is, we start in the Championship. That's the journey. Again, we struggled. The Americans call it a tri-peat. So this is also. So I'm happy to talk about that after. Some of the things that we have dealing with Rob and Ryan. They both have their own creative agencies. Ryan works with Maximum Effort, if you see at the end of the documentary, and Rob McElhenney works with More Better. So we've got West Coast, East Coast, Wrexham. And then at the moment, we're about to go on tour to Australia, New Zealand, and then we've got time zone in Australia, New Zealand, so try blending all of those cultures together. But the fact is the football club lives and breathes on the pitch, and we hired Phil Parkinson as manager in the National League. They just missed out that first season. And then, as I said, we went up 3 consecutive promotions, and we're playing in the Championship this season. Just a bit on the documentary, again, for those that are heavy into sort of market research side of things. We did it's a little bit old now, but we did some market research in the States. But these are the facts and figures on the documentary. It airs in the US on FX and Hulu, so combined that's 4 million viewers. I think in the UK, yes, it's on Disney+. It's not yet distributed in Asia, so that will be an interesting one. And again, for those of you that are sports fans, football fans, and big brand fans, and talk of Asia as a market, we've not even looked at Asia yet as a club. I'll show you on the next slide where our fans lie, and it's US and actually Australia and territories where the documentary is being shown, again, for obvious reasons. It's won 8 Emmy Awards. It's the #1 most watched docuseries in FX history. Again, anecdotally, because we're going to Australia, New Zealand. In Australia, it's the second most popular, what do they call it, reality docuseries behind the Kardashians. So that's the reach that the documentary has given the club. If you then would look a little bit more at the market size itself and kind of where our fans are, Rob and Ryan's reach is huge. Ryan Reynolds has 145, it's probably gone up 145 million followers on social. When they bought the club had 400,000 social media followers combined. We're now at 4.5 million. So, and again, most of those are coming across from entertainment, from Rob and Ryan. They're not all in Wrexham, I can tell you that for sure. Global reach of 272 million, and again, normal statistic, a football club will give you 9.5 million core Wrexham fans and 27 globally. I think what's interesting, and then probably explains kind of where we're going as a brand and what we're trying to do, and then it'll also explain the partners that we've got on board. We have a 7 times higher composition of American fans than the average Premier League team. And again, I won't name them, but last summer we went on the aptly named Rex Coast Tour to the States, to the west coast of US. And we played a couple of Premier League teams. We had queues around the block for merchandise that we couldn't supply because we hadn't yet done a global deal, which we've since done with our kit supplier Macron, as opposed to a couple of big Premier League clubs that have spent a long time trying to market their brand in the US. So it's given us an amazing reach, which is, that the documentary has given us an amazing reach and a different kind of profile as well. Again, I won't run through all of this in too much detail, but we over-index on female, higher average income, education, families. So it appeals to a whole kind of segment of population that, to the extent they come to, a lot of the Americans come and they visit Wrexham, they come to London, they come up to Wrexham. We can't, until we start rebuilding a new stand, we can't provide them with tickets. We keep some back for our international fans, but we can't provide them with tickets. But they're quite happy to go to the Turf pub, buy a pint of beer, go and have fish and chips, and have their photo taken, and then hopefully, if we get the club store open on Sunday, which is another thing which is hard work to change people's habits, they buy a shirt for themselves, they buy a shirt for their family members, for followers of the documentary, right? So it's a whole segment of population that is not your typical kind of football fan population. That's not saying we don't cater for them, but it's opened up a whole new market for us. Again, last slide of the research stuff. I think, I won't go through this, it was done in the States, that's why it's benchmarked against all the American sports, basketball, hockey, baseball, ice hockey. But I think just of interest there when in terms of our market valuation for our front of kit, because of how we perform in the States and because of the brands that we're getting involved with, we outperform most of, or in top quartile of most of the ones in the US, and probably a couple of Premier League clubs as well. Now, onto the fun bit. Unsurprisingly, you've got 2 Hollywood actors as your owners. Occasionally, we lean into them and utilize them, and they do a great job of showcasing, and they do it really well, I've got to say, of activating sponsorships, bringing them to life, announcing them. I've got 3 examples here. I'll talk a tiny bit about each one after I've shown them. This first one was for Stoke Cold Brew Coffee, and I'll tell you why that's quite interesting, with Channing Tatum.
All right, boys. Your bosses are not happy with your celebration dances. So, drink up. Try to keep up. Most important thing, eye contact. Come on, champ. They saw you score. Now let them feel you score. You got the gloves. Use them. All right. You guys got it?
What's up, Doc?
They're ready. All right, boys! Stoke cold brew coffee. No, I promise, Ryan and Robin, keep it classy. Everyone put your clothes back on.
You like that? You seen it before? That's interesting. That's okay. Stoke cold brew coffee is not sold in the UK. They're the partner, the naming rights for the stadium currently, Stoke Kairos, or Racecourse Ground. That was aired on halftime of the Super Bowl. So apart from paying for talent and the production there, they would have bought media spend for that. And everything you see there, apart from Channing Tatum, those are the players. That was shot, filmed, and the bit that always watch it again sometime, the bit makes me laugh when I look at that. That's the dressing room. When you look at that, you've got Channing Tatum and he's doing that, and behind there's an English radiator, the classic radiator, and you're thinking, they don't even have those in the States, but that's what they want, the reality, the brand, all the branding. We didn't set any of that out. That's in the changing room, right? That's the players who turned up. So, and the night before was one of the players' birthdays, so they were out late, but there's a whole different story there. So that's Stoke, who've been a strong partner of ours. Next one, we just give you a bit of background beforehand, is this was something that we asked Rob and Ryan to do to help us on our retail sales, actually.
Hello, I'm Ryan Reynolds, co-chairman of Wrexham AFC.
And I'm Rob McElhenney, also co-chairman of Wrexham AFC.
You may have seen a lot of announcements recently. We signed some pretty legit players in the transfer window.
And we unveiled plans for a shiny new cop, which is a stadium.
And it is expensive. Running a football club is like lighting money on fire, except it doesn't keep you warm.
Picture a black hole. Now throw your wallet in it.
Which brings us to our sale on kits. Act now.
That's 50% off on all jerseys between now and March 5th. Act now!
Act now.
Act now.
Are you acting now yet?
Because running a football club is like running into a financial brick wall.
You may think it's all fun and games, but you haven't received a call from Rob McElhenney at 3 a.m. screaming bloody murder that this thing is bleeding me dry every single week.
No, I wasn't screaming at you, Ryan. I was crying. Act now.
Or whenever you can. Just kidding. Act now.
Okay, so again, no surprise, right? We lent into the two of them and their reach between mainly online, but also in the club store. And we're talking, this went out in, February or March of this year. We sold 10,000 kits off the back of that, which in the middle of a season is quite a lot, right? And again, we just re-signed with Macron and as our kit supplier, and because of the kind of interest in the States with fans and Australia and so on, then we're for the first time we're going into retail stores. So we're going to Dick's Sporting Goods in the States, we're going into Ultra in Australia, and we're getting distribution. Before we were mailing kits out from the club store on the Racecourse Ground. So that's kind of how we've grown. Last one, because I don't want to run out of time. This was talking about partner activation. This was when United came on as front of kit shirt sponsor a couple of years ago.
Okay, that tweet needs some explanation.
We stepped in it. It was bound to happen.
When we tweeted Wrexham United, we forgot to include a super important ampersand.
Yeah, I should have read Wrexham and United, because Wrexham is going to be sponsored by United Airlines. It's the front of shirt, it's super exciting. We really wanted to share this.
Yeah, now we will not now, nor will we ever change the name of the club.
We would never do that.
It's probably illegal anyway.
If it's not illegal, it should be.
Yeah.
Let's make it illegal.
Okay.
We can do that legally.
We are very sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, but we're mostly excited. United, that's a major airline. It's a banner day for the team and the town.
The city.
Right, Wrexham City. I still prefer town.
I do too, but I think we got to button this up a little bit, Ryan. We are now in the EFL.
Let's never do that again. They'll cut that out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so that was a few years back before we were back in the EFL. Again, anecdotally off that, United don't fly into Manchester, Liverpool, which is the local airport, right? So, but it's about the exposure that they get elsewhere. It's about activating the brand. And on that, I will go quickly ahead. I told you about Stoke. One of the key things that one of the major partners get is visibility in the documentary. Then the custom campaign, which you saw, was something that they came up with creatively, and then we worked with them for the Super Bowl ad. Use of, obviously, why wouldn't we use, two Hollywood stars as chairman in terms of activating that. That's the Rex Coast Tour, experiential activations. We work with the partners in the States very much to activate, and we did it with the women's team. The women's team came on tour with us, in fact had their own kind of sponsor to get them out there and so on. We do, of course, have visibility, LEDs, in-stadia activation, hospitality, very, very limited. It's more about kind of taking the brand out and going out and using reach and visibility there. And then for consumer products, Stoke is a Danone product, co-branded products, and we do quite a lot of that. We also have Four Walls, which is, because of the owners as well, how they're involved, but that's a blended whiskey. So we do kind of limited time offer capsules. Aviation gin, which Ryan then sold. So it's really, for me, it's kind of after 20 odd years of seeing this, it's really the best example of a 360-degree kind of marketing activation, which works. It works for the club because we get the visibility, we get revenue. Works for the brands because it's something unique. It gives them their visibility. Activation-wise, you can activate on site. It gives us more visibility in store. We do on-store packaging and stuff. Wrexham Lager is another brand that is a partner of ours that's now going internationally thanks to visibility and the documentary and the visibility that's given them. This is just a quote. It's kind of back to the football. The very first press conference they gave, they were actually in the stand, just standing in the stand. There was nowhere else to do it, and they were asked if the ambition was the Premier League. To which the answer would say, as crazy as it sounds, but theoretically, if it's possible to go from the fifth to the Premier League, why wouldn't we use our last drop of blood to get there? And we're in the Championship. We'll see. It'll be tough, but again, it's kind of the dream, right? To if you can do it, then why shouldn't you try? Just a kind of where we're going now as a club. We released and we announced we're building a new Cop End, which will be 5,500 when it's built, and then 7,500 if we get planning permission for another. So now we're 10,500 seater stadium, you imagine, which is probably the smallest in the Championship. When the work's all done and completed, we'll go up to about 17,500, nearly 18,000. We've invested heavily as a club in academy training centre, bringing Category 3 status for those that know, so we can get younger players in and try and develop talent in North Wales. So that's about kind of the football side and feeding back to the community. And we're growing the structure of the club. We're trying to play catch up actually with the success on the pitch and the success of the brand and the documentary. So we're trying to get the right team in to keep on that progression, but not losing the kind of local community and the spirit that makes it so different and makes that docu-series so watchable. That's kind of just a bit of press cuttings from our announcement of the new Cop stand. Again, for those that know, that brickwork is very local. That's a Roaban brick from the area, so it's all kind of embedded in the culture. I think maybe that's the one message that, from a brand marketing point of view, it's like we've got something there which is unique. Every football club will say that, and every football club does. But in our case, it's portrayed and it's so visible, and it's so important to keep that for the club and for the community, and that's why we're developing where we are and the stadium where we're at, and we're not moving. So that's it, Mary. We have 52 seconds for questions if you want to.
You're such a popular man. I think it would be crazy for me not to use the next 5 minutes to talk to you. So come over here because the lighting's better, apparently.
Okay. Which side do you want?
Thank you. It's a real pleasure to hear good news, isn't it? And to be involved in a project which is just so positive energy.
Yep.
Got some questions for you from the audience. What would your strategy be if Rob and Ryan weren't involved?
Ooh. Who put that one there?
Anonymous.
No, I mean, I think what they've given us is they've turbocharged the club, right? I mean, I think when I said that every club has its own uniqueness and its own aspect, I mean, that's That's true, and those elements of the stand and the design and the community and all of those things that make us unique as a brand are there, and other clubs have them as well. What you don't have probably is the global appeal and global visibility, and in our case that's brought in big partners with bigger budgets that allowed us to probably turbocharge what we've done with a clear intention to go up sporting-wise through the leagues. So I think it's about finding the uniqueness and what's at the core of that.
Absolutely.
And then activating.
Do you think there's a ceiling on how far Wrexham brand can go, given the reach and the established Premier League teams have already out there, although they're all losing money?
A ceiling, did you say? Or
a ceiling. Do you think there's a ceiling to the Wrexham brand?
I mean, the ceiling's a Premiership in Robert Ryan's view, right? So, but I mean, the academy, we've just started the academy, the training pitch, which used to be our training pitch, we now have to rent it because it was sold off and when the club was under hard times. So there's infrastructure and stuff that you can't kind of do without at a certain point. But no, I don't think so. Ultimately, there is to be successful, there are correlations where to be successful in football, the more money you spend, the better the players, the more chance you have of being successful. But in terms of doing something differently and being unique, and the important thing for us is not to lose that unique element. And I think, the fact that we've got a 5th series of documentary coming out is going to prove that from that side, from the storytelling side, there are always stories to tell, right? Because that part comes from the community and the people and the fans. That's if we get promoted or we miss out or we stay where we are or we get relegated, there's always a storyline in sport, right? But the uniqueness of the documentary, which gives us that reach, is the human element. That's what appeals to everyone.
And one last question. Is the women's team next?
The women's team is, the women's team were promoted a few years ago to the Premier League in Welsh football. We're looking to, and then they have a strange system. It's an 8-team league, and they cut it in half towards the end of the season. The bottom 4 play off for relegation, the top 4. So we were in the top 4 last season. There's a lot of work to do. We need to find a home for the women's team. They play some matches at the racecourse. They played another ground that we're looking potentially to invest in, and that's where they train. So that would be another place to train. But no, Rob and Ryan are heavily invested in the women's team as well. So, and as I said, they came on tour with us last year. They won't this year, but they went on tour this year at the end of the season to Hong Kong, which again is something that is crazy for a Welsh women's team. But
well, I'd like you all to put your hands together and congratulations, Rob.
Thank you.
Well done for next season.
Thank you, Rob.